Live and local. We're here at South by Southwest. This is Ian Schafer, who's the CEO at Deep Focus. Ian, thanks for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me today.
Pardon our coats. The windows are open. We can literally smell possibly barbecue, possibly generator fuel. I'm not exactly sure. But I mean, we're really here. It's, early afternoon. Parties start pretty soon. We're chatting about agencies. We're chatting about mobile. Ian, we've got some great questions. Oh, but one other thing. He's wearing 2 wearables. I love writing about wearables. I have to say I'm pretty impressed here. What do you think about them?
So one is the Pebble, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it's just, you've got to train it the right way and manage the apps that you put on it. But, from a convenience standpoint, well worth the money I spent on it.
What's the number one thing that you do with it?
Determine whether or not an email is worth responding to right away.
And your other wearable, you're tracking your fitness?
Yeah, tracking my fitness. It's good. It incentivizes me to walk more and move more, which I think is exactly what Nike intended by doing that. So.
Especially by South by, it's a great place to use it. Although I think we also possibly need a drinking wearable. I don't know. There's some behaviors here that we should track.
Yeah, if there's a drinking wearable that encourages me to drink less, I'd like that, please.
So we were talking offline about, can a digital agency become an agency of record or a main agency for a brand? Tell me, why is this top of mind? What are your thoughts on this?
The previous generation of digital agencies made several attempts to do that. I think the thing that was potentially holding them back is that they were really focused on these immersive experiences that represented kind of like cul-de-sacs for people. Like people would go there, maybe they'd wind up there. They were essentially big ads that we had to advertise people to get to. So we're basically advertising. And I don't know how efficient that is for brands looking to make an impact with a lot of people. It seemed to almost like, drive people deeper into a funnel, but not starting at the widest point. I think now, we're at a point where agencies that really understand consumer behavior, understand the kinds of things that they share, which is becoming a way more attributable key performance indicator that leads to sales than, say, even website visits, especially for a brand that's not selling their own stuff. The agencies that really have a good understanding of that dynamic, how it works, how to make creative that, not only turns people into advocates, but actually gets them to share it with a lot of people, and then understanding the media spend dynamic against that kind of content are very well positioned to lead brands in a world where digital is becoming the consumer's primary consumption point. So I think we're finally at that time, and I think it had to skip a generation in order for it to work. I guess maybe the curveball and all that is that these digital agencies need to understand the world of maybe broadcast media, as well as kind of like the more narrow casting. They have to work better together to drive more significant business results.
I think that's the key question right there, because we know that digital has gotten really huge in this space, but digital is still not everything. Although digital touches everything. But it's kind of like looking at brands becoming publishers. Yes, they can do it, but can they do it as well as, let's say, a partner or an agency could do it? So getting back into the agency space, I think some digital agencies are hiring in a lot of traditional folks. I think that they really do know the TV space. They know the rest of the traditional space, but those needs are still really real for the brand. And so can they handle all of them?
Some agencies can handle some brands in that way. And I think it's got to be the right fit. I mean, I think the brands that are right are the brands that are speaking to, say, a more active audience, like an audience that maybe skews younger, one that is way more active in terms of, digital media usage and consumption. And it's funny, I feel like these days, digital is code for mobile, just because it's becoming such a primary way that people access everything. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, the predominant platforms are all driven by mobile usage. It's not...
Or by screens, I would say, but because I even, I'm starting to interact on my TV and stuff like that too. But no, let's say digital is mobile though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about, the creative across those screens is that they each serve a different purpose, right? So TV, the purpose for creative on television might be more about persuasion, whereas almost the smaller the screen gets, the more it becomes about driving advocacy and sharing. So whether it's active or passive. So that's ironically, the smaller the screen, the more active the user of it, right? So that's a shift for the creative disciplines within these agencies, and traditional creative agencies that were built around actually persuading people, like in the Ogilvy days, the David Ogilvy days. It's a very different world now, even with older consumers. So I think that's the kind of thing that we're finding is positioning us real well as a lead agency for brands.
Let's pretend we're at Dave and Buster's and we're playing that horse race game. And so one is traditional agencies quickly adopting or buying digital. One is digital agencies that are trying to really own the traditional space. And then you've got horses C and D that I'm not even going to name. Who's going to win?
The largest agencies, right? So the agencies that are part of the largest networks are always going to be really competitive, if for no other reason than they have very good relationships with, like, say, global procurement departments at the biggest brands. But I think for the brands that are willing to take the most aggressive steps forward, the ones that are really trying to change the way, and those brands might exist within those larger infrastructures. They just might be more independently minded. I think those are going to gravitate towards agencies that are kind of digitally native first, and then translate that into kind of bigger, broader messages that pay off.
A lot of new spend is going into the mobile space. Is it going into the right places? Tell us what you were talking about offline.
The that mobile connectivity to the internet, the time spent doing that has eclipsed the time spent doing the same thing on desktop and laptop combined. That represents a seismic, like, consumer behavioral shift that we're all still dealing with. But the challenge with that is that a vast majority of the dollars spent on digital advertising is being spent on digital display advertising, which is the kind of advertising that doesn't really work for brands on mobile devices, and mostly because it doesn't work for consumers on mobile devices. So at the same time, the majority of ad dollars that are spent on mobile advertising, which is obviously an exploding industry, but it's all exploding around the app economy. So it's like people trying to spend more money on the mobile device, getting them to install more things that hopefully generate more revenue for, say, game developers or utilities or things like that. Brands are going to be left out in the cold if they don't figure out ways to move the same volume of dollars that they're spending on desktop display advertising to mobile advertising, whatever form that takes. And I just think there's I think it might be a place where there are no standards. And that's very dangerous in terms of, like, the frictionless migration of dollars from one format to the other. So it's that's kind of a scary situation for everybody, and I think one that's going underestimated.
So a lot of the time, I end an interview saying, so what's your top tip? What's your advice? But I don't think that's the direction we need to go here. And so I'm going to kind of play into the fact that your company is called Deep Focus. I can tell that you are an analytical thinker. I'm going to say, how do we respond? Not literally what do we do, but I mean, do we just stay unified as an industry and as a community, sort of figuring it out together as we go? Do we stay flexible? Like, what is the how of we respond? Not the what, but the how.
Yeah, I think advertising, just in general, marketing, is moving to be more of an amoebic function than it ever was. I mean, marketing and advertising as an industry has grown up around silos. So it used to be like print, production, media, public relations. I think brands and agencies will benefit from a more generalist approach, one that puts actually the consumer in at more of the core of the decisions that are made, as opposed to, say, I hate to say it, but like efficiency or like cost savings. I mean, I think those will all happen as a result of technology moving forward anyway. So trying to, like, artificially affect those now might be, like biting too much off at once. I mean, I think we really need to look at, what are the creative formats that work for that brand to achieve that brand's results, as opposed to how many banner ads can we buy.